Hey friends, I'm back, and of course, I brought some cool prints. Yep, I've been gone for several weeks, visiting Sweden for my sister's wedding, and also traveling around France with my family. It was a blessing to have time with them. It was inspiring and refreshing for my creative energy as well. But I'm also really glad to be back. I haven't forgotten about all of you, and I come bearing prints. If you've been craving more Make Anything puzzles, well, today your desires will be thoroughly quenched because I've got a pretty great collection of new puzzles here for you. And these cover a pretty wide range of difficulties, so I figured we'll start with some of the easier ones and work our way up to the real hard hitters. Let's get right into it. First, we've got these llama puzzles. I designed these 5-piece jigsaw puzzles for my niece on her first birthday to celebrate our shared Peruvian heritage. They do require a bit of dexterity, so it's probably more appropriate for a 2 or 3-year-old, but you've got to get them puzzling early. I designed a few slight variations, so you can print these very simply, or you can make things a bit more interesting with some filament swaps. I used the multi-pass multicolor printing technique to make this multicolored saddle. That's done by printing several different colors just on the first few layers of a print so that the nozzle doesn't get in the way, and that way you can get as many colors as you want with a standard single filament printer. Along with these red limbs, I think it kind of represents the Peruvian flag. Now, sorry for the spoiler there, solving this puzzle for you. I will be discussing the solutions for most of the puzzles in this video, so if you're a puzzle purist, you may want to download and print your own to solve before watching this whole video. But I feel like that's just one of the unfortunate results of being the one making the puzzles. You often have to spoil it for yourself. And that's definitely the case for these next ones. Here we have a handful of puzzles that I call the Dastardly Dovetail boxes. And there's a chance you've seen something like this before. A box with seemingly impossible intersecting dovetail joints on every side, but in reality, the lid slides off diagonally. It's a fun idea, but also fairly easy to solve, so I figured I'd up the challenge just a bit by adding another element to the mix. See, this Dastardly Dovetail box will budge, but it doesn't simply slide open. Shaking it reveals some loose elements hidden inside, and from there, it's up to you to figure out the internal mechanism. Again, spoilers, but the key to opening this box is to give it a very deliberate spin while simultaneously sliding off the lid. Oh, first try. Upon doing that, you'll find some marbles inside, and they might fly across the room, and those are the obstacles that are inside that make this thing trickier to open. See, there are 2 marbles on opposite corners of the box, and to clear the track, one marble must be tucked inside of the lid while the other is in the base, and that's achieved with the twisting motion. Even knowing the solution, it can be pretty tricky to get the action down just right, and if you slide the lid off in the wrong direction, it also won't open up completely. Quite dastardly indeed. But that said, there is actually an easier way to get the lid open, and that's just to shake it wildly until both of the marbles just happen to be out of the way. Still not that easy. Whoops. Regardless, it's still a fun puzzle and a pretty cool container for storing your secrets or giving slightly frustrating gifts. For that, I also made this larger version, which has the same solution, but a bit more space inside so you can fit in a flash drive or some cash. Now, this round version looks similar, but it doesn't have any hidden marbles. Instead, it appears to have 3 evenly spaced dovetails around the edge, and the solution is very simply to twist it open. It's very straightforward and not really a puzzle, but it was one of those ideas that I just had to try out, and I find the result to be quite satisfying. Basically, it's a cool container. Next up, we've got this eye-catching little puzzle. This is my take on a popular old puzzle known as the Tower of Hanoi, and I've renamed it the UFO of Babylon. The objective here is simply to get all the pieces from one side to the other side, following just 3 rules. You must move only one piece at a time, you can only move the top piece of the stack, and you're not allowed to place a large ring on top of a smaller one. And in this case, nothing can go on top of the flying saucer. I actually designed another version of this game many years ago during an internship, but what with UFOs coming to the forefront again, and with my improved modeling skills, I thought the alien-themed version would make quite a fun model. Plus, if they are visiting, maybe they'll like my little tribute. Spare my life, who knows? As fancy as this UFO looks, it doesn't require a special printer or anything. It's just a matter of swapping out filaments at the correct layer heights, and you've got yourself a colorful saucer. Then we'll print 3 of these tiny feet, although you'll inevitably lose one and probably never see it again, so maybe print 4. Then cut a few short sections of raw filament which make the legs, and we can stick all those parts together. The rest of the puzzle is also printed in a few parts to make it as easy and sturdy as possible. The obelisks snap in through the bottom, and I glued those in place just for some extra strength. Followed by this optional TPU sheet that I also glued on to add some grip to the base. That came out a bit sloppy, so I'll improve that before sharing the files. Finally, no UFO scene is complete without some cows. And these tiny cows happen to also be little puzzles in and of themselves. They're only 3 pieces, but they do need to be assembled in the correct order, with the feet locking the other 2 pieces into place. Still, the most challenging part of that puzzle is probably just managing to print such tiny parts. So there it is, and you might be thinking, oh, if we're in Babylon, those should be camels. But maybe the aliens brought the cows to Mesopotamia. Puzzle lore. All right, before we continue down the line of puzzles, I want to sneak in another very exciting Make Anything development. Over the years, I've received a ton of inquiries from viewers who want to print and sell my designs. I've always loved the idea of collaborating with my followers and helping out with their entrepreneurial endeavors, and I've attempted to work something out many times, but I always kept hitting some kind of roadblock in the logistics and legal aspects of offering commercial licensing. But I have finally done it, thanks in large part to Thangs.com for creating the infrastructure I need to offer different licenses, and to my new affordable lawyer, ChatGPT. In case you missed it, my 3D printing files are now on Thangs.com, and that's where you'll find all of these new puzzles. So please visit my profile on Thangs, give me a follow, and download your favorite Make Anything files. That would help me out a lot. As for my premium files, you'll still be able to purchase individual models on my mini factory, but as of today, I'm also adding the option of joining the Make Anything membership on Thangs, where you'll get your pick of the same premium files for a flat monthly rate. For personal use, that's as little as $10 a month, which is less than buying Tippy Tree on its own, so I'd say it's a pretty great deal. Furthermore, if you wish to sell 3D prints of my designs, you can subscribe to the Make Anything Merchant or Premium Retail Partnership plans, which offer you the right to make and sell prints from my massive backlog of designs and any upcoming models, including all of these puzzles. There's a lot more to these Thangs memberships, so please check out the links in the video description for more info. I could go on, but I can tell you're eager to hear about the rest of these puzzles. So let's get back to that. Twisty marble puzzles. I feel like we should have a better name for that category, but I love these things. Ever since I printed my first Astro 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐿 in 2018, I've been hooked. And apparently I can't stop making these things. For many of you, these have been less about the challenge and more about the pleasing tactile nature of the balls rolling through tracks and the satisfying magnetic snap as you twist them. I said we'd go in order of difficulty, but I'm gonna break from that for just a bit so that we can start with the offshoot of my Astro 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐿, which I call the Lil Astro puzzle. Now this one may look very familiar to some of you, and all I'll say is, darn right. The Lil Astro has the same look and feel of the Astro 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐿 Pro, right down to that funky wobbly roll that comes from its 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐿𝐵𝐿 shape. The difference is that this one is based on a 4-sided 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐿 rather than a 6-sided 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐿, and it uses half as many marbles, making it much easier to solve. Although solving it does provide some valuable insight for solving the original Astro 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐿, so I think it makes a great stepping stone. Beyond the classic form, I've also made some variations that are even more compact without affecting the actual puzzle. This one represents the orb version of my Astro 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐿, and here are a few other styles as well. I just want you to notice how different these look from the original design of my Astro 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐿. Not so hard to do, now is it? Another twisty puzzle I'm quite proud of is the Chain, which I've personally found more challenging to solve than the Astro 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵𝐿, despite having only 2 tracks. Revisiting this design, I realized that I could manage to shrink it down just a bit while still having room inside for the center clip and the magnets that hold it all together. And that gives us this Lil Chain. I got it down from 30 marbles to 22, and yet this one may be more difficult to solve than the original. As with all these puzzles, the goal is still to get all the like-colored marbles touching, but the Lil Chain is unique in that it doesn't have the same number of marbles for every color, so they're not all interchangeable, and reaching the solution requires you to figure out that extra little aspect of the puzzle. On the other hand, one thing I like about all these twisty marble puzzles is that you can adjust the difficulty just based on what marbles you put inside. So here is a Lil Chain with only 2 different colors, and that also makes a fantastic puzzle, but it's a little less tricky. Alright, before getting to the most challenging puzzle of the video, I've got 2 extremely simple ones that are more fidget toys than puzzles, but they are oh so small and satisfying. I've simplified my already relatively easy 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐵 puzzle to make this Kwiblette. This one only has 8 marbles and a single track that flips around, and it feels really nice with these glass marbles. If getting like colors touching is too easy for you, you can try figuring out how to go back and forth between all like colors touching and no like colors touching in the fewest number of twists. That's a nice extra challenge. And as if the Kwiblette wasn't small enough, I went ahead and made this little Kwiblito, which has a mere 6 marbles. This one is so simple that it's somehow harder to not solve it. Alright, how about a quick semi-tangent for some experimentation? Ever since I started making these twisty marble puzzles, one of my chief frustrations has been sourcing the best balls. These glass marbles I started with were cheap, but they can vary in size a significant amount, making it hard to build smoothly sliding puzzles. I eventually found these ABS beads that come in a ton of great colors and are quite a bit more consistent, but along the way, I also found these polypropylene balls that are about as good as it gets, except they didn't come in many colors. So recently, I decided to conduct some tests using various RIT dyes. These are clothing dyes originally made for organic fibers, but they also sell some special versions for synthetic materials and commercial applications. So I decided to try them all out to see if we could color these balls. I made some small batches of each color using a liberal amount of dye, adding boiling water, and a splash of vinegar, which supposedly helps. I mixed those up, and turns out these balls float, so I smushed some paper towels on top to keep them submerged. After leaving those overnight, I expertly extracted the balls, washed them thoroughly, and, well, the results were mildly successful. All of the different RIT dyes had a similar effect, tinting the balls with a subtle but recognizable hue, except just one red one that got way darker for some reason. They certainly aren't as vibrant as the ABS beads, but they do look quite nice, and weirdly edible. Anyways, I used these to make a rainbow Kwiblito, and I quite like the outcome. So, let me know what you think about those. Okay, we have just one final puzzle for today, but it is a beast. When it comes to difficulty, I would say it beats the 𝐒𝐓𝐋 𝐅𝐢𝐥𝐞𝐬, the Chain, even the 𝐒𝐓𝐿, and I call it the Donut Factory. The story behind this puzzle goes back nearly 5 years to when I opened up some awesome fan mail from Jonathan, aka 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐷. Jonathan sent me a custom Make Anything 2x2 puzzle along with some additional tiny 2x2s that he used to make it. He encouraged me to try my hand at making something with the 2x2s, and I did try. My first attempt was to combine the 2x2 with my 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐷 to make the 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐷𝐉𝐴. The puzzle did come together, but the result of splitting the 6-sided 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐷 into 8 parts was basically the same as the 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐷𝐉𝐴. The solution to the puzzle didn't change whatsoever. It wasn't until much more recently that I sketched up another idea that could combine the 2x2 with marbles in a much more meaningful way, and that was the Donut Factory. This puzzle involves 6 rings with 8 marbles each, all spread around a sphere, and it can get jumbled up very quickly. The Donut Factory is built around and behaves like the 2x2 cube that is at its core, and solving it is also very similar to solving a 2x2, with the added complexity of managing all these marbles. I have personally never solved a 2x2 cube, and just assembling this puzzle was enough of a challenge for me. The 2x2 cube also has fairly loose tolerances, so it almost moves too smoothly as is. To deal with that, naturally, I added magnets to my second version. To build this, I first printed 8 of these identical sections, which can be a bit tricky to print. They do print support free, but I also had to add brims to get them to come out successfully. And then we have to glue in a whopping 48 magnets. It's a lot, I know, but that's actually the most simple way to magnetize every opposing face of this puzzle in a way that the parts will always attract each other regardless of the orientation. Once those are set, I'll use the same 𝐒𝐓𝐿 adhesive to glue all the sections to the inner 2x2 cube. All except one, that is. because we still need to load up the marbles. That is done by twisting the cube partway so that we can create these S channels, which we can fill with 8 marbles of a like color. After doing that to fill the bottom 3 donuts, we can load the top ones and complete the puzzle by gluing in the final piece. The magnets help with assembly because they hold everything together while the glue is drying, but I also used some silicone bands just to keep everything in place for a day or 2. That assembly is quite a bit of an operation, and I didn't get everything perfectly lined up. Some of these panel gaps give the Cybertruck a run for its money, but nevertheless, this magnetized version works quite smoothly, and I just love how this puzzle looks and feels. But there's no way I'm solving this. Now, before I leave, I do want to acknowledge the puzzles that came before mine. I shared my Donut Factory puzzle with 𝐒𝐓𝐿, and in all of his puzzling wisdom, he was able to refer me to several very similar puzzles that have been created before. The 2x2 cube with rotating segments idea goes back at least as far as 2008 with Matt Sheppett's cheese block puzzle. Interestingly enough, that one has 6 wedges on each face, so I can imagine it taking quite a lot of fiddling every time you want to twist it along a different plane. In 2010, 𝐒𝐓𝐿𝐥 revealed Virgo's Cube. This thing has colored faces and 12 balls on every side, so that's just insane. And then there's even another 3D printed puzzle in Matthew Ray's Cheese Wheel from 2018. Just like the Donut Factory, this one has 8 rotating pieces per side, so the solution to this one is the closest to mine. My Donut Factory puzzle uses the same internal 2x2 mechanism as all of these puzzles, and many more, although mine doesn't have the colored faces on each side like a 2x2 cube. I personally thought that the rings alone were enough of a challenge, but apparently there are some really masochistic puzzlers out there. I do already have another version of this puzzle in the works that uses a 35mm cube on the inside instead of the 24mm ones I used here, which will hopefully tighten up the tolerances a bit. So, if you do have any ideas for ways to spice it up further, let me know in the comments or on the Make Anything Discord channel. Anyways, that is it for today's showcase. Hopefully at least one of these puzzles has piqued your interest. And again, you can follow the links in the description to find all of these files on Thangs.com and to get a discount on your first month of the brand new Thangs Make Anything membership. I'm truly beyond excited to grow the Make Anything community on Thangs and across the globe. So thank you so much for your time. I love you all, and as always, stay inspired.